I know a lot of you probably noticed that there was this whole roundtable thing in Washington, D.C. as it relates to college football Friday. And there were a lot of people there, and everyone had an opinion on it. Did a lot get accomplished there? No, I would say probably not. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Truth be told, I still haven't listened to any of the sound from it. And the only reason I'm going to talk about it on the show is because there was something that happened that had very little to do with that roundtable that I think is of utmost importance. So, the roundtable itself, performative, a little bit. Most people there didn't even speak. There was no athlete representation there. So, yeah, it was pretty obvious not a lot was going to be accomplished. Now, not a lot's going to be accomplished on camera versus not a lot being accomplished behind closed doors are two different things. And we can't talk about what happened behind closed doors because we weren't behind them and we're not Ross Dellinger. So that's not where my focus was. My focus was not on that roundtable at all. My focus was on the other drumbeat that I'd been hearing for the better part of the last month, but specifically the last 2 weeks. And that's why you'll notice on the show last week, I did not talk about the roundtable thing. But I did talk about something else. You notice I talked about the pooling of the media rights, which is kind of a boring topic. So it's risky to talk about it on the show, but I promised you then, and I'm going to promise you now, that it's going to end up mattering for you as a college football fan. I don't care about administrative types. I don't care about network executives. The stuff they're caring about right now does not matter for 99.9% of us, so I'm not wasting time on the show talking about that. But I will invest time talking about matters that we actually care about. So show me the Dellinger tweet. So Ross Dellinger is in Washington, D.C., and he's covering all this, but also Ross Dellinger had a report on Friday, and it's on the screen right here. It said, hey, for the first time, a Republican and Democrat, Senators Eric Schmidt and I believe it was Cantwell, the text is small so I can't read it, they've agreed on legislation to amend the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 to permit conferences to pool media rights, their staffs tell Yahoo Sports. Sounds like filler, doesn't it? Just sounds like word salad. It's not. First off, when you've got a bipartisan bill being brought to the Senate floor, in this day and age, it is not word salad at all. This is the deal. This is the deal I'm paying attention to, not the roundtable. The whole pooling of media rights is a thing I'm fascinated by, and it's a thing that I have said before and I'll say again. Let me very clearly restate my opinion on this. This whole concept of pooling college football media rights, I think will be met with supermajority support once it's articulated properly and once everyone understands that. And I'm especially talking about college football fans. And fans win for basic reasons. So you and I do not pocket a dime from broadcast rights deals. We don't because we're not networks. So some of the things that maybe a network executive would care about, we don't particularly care about. But what do we care about as college football fans? Well, I wrote down 3 things. I care about scheduling, which this absolutely addresses, and I'll get to it in a second. I care about variety and texture of coverage, so the way the sport is covered itself. And I would love to erode the silo model that college football has sort of worked its way into, and that's the thing where one network has a TV deal with one league, so they kind of only promote that one league or only talk about that one league, and then over here another network copy and paste with another league, and it's so dumb conceptually, because what you should have is you should have all the networks in business with college football just the way I said it, in business with college football, not in business with one conference. So in my more utopian world, which believe it or not is feasible, it would look a little bit more like the NFL strictly from a media rights perspective, in that if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm going to play probably most of my games on Fox because I'm an NFC team, but I'm also going to play on ESPN when I play on Monday nights. Sunday nights, I'm going to play on NBC. I go play in someone's house that is in the AFC. I'm going to play on CBS most likely. I'm going to play probably an Amazon game. But the point is, because all the teams are playing on all the networks at some point during the year, The networks have it in their best interest to promote the NFL because they cover the NFL. They don't cover one specific league. Hey, quick time out here. Are you subscribed to the channel? It doesn't cost anything. It's free. Please do it. It helps us maintain the show at this level. That's it. That's all I got. Back to the clip. Likewise, all of the networks have a piece of the playoff media rights pie, which means it's in their best interest to promote the NFL playoffs instead of college football right now. NBC doesn't have a playoff game. Fox doesn't have a playoff game. So the season kind of ends for them at the end of the regular season. Why would they waste time promoting anything beyond that? Well, they don't, because it doesn't make financial sense for them right now. It doesn't make business sense. But also from a fan's perspective, and this is kind of just me talking, I think most people would agree with me on this, but you can let me know if you don't. I've always thought that the coverage gets a little stale when you know if you're an Ole Miss fan or you know if you're a Michigan fan, the same network and therefore the same broadcast teams are just going to cover your games over and over and over again. If I want that, I can listen to my home radio broadcast. I'd love a whole lot more variety in coverage. Now, that's me personally talking, but I tend to think from the comments and the feedback we've gotten on this, we've got like super majority support on that. Now, that concept, the pooling of the media rights, if you don't understand a thing about this, just understand the entire thinking behind this is everyone's crying broke. Everyone's yelling broke. Everyone's freaked out that they're running out of money. So everyone's yelling about problems, right? So there's a group that comes along and says, well, we think we have a solution. Now, as is typically the case in society, the group that's yelling about all the problems, when met with a suggestion for a solution, just take it upon themselves to shout down the solution or the suggestion and talk about why it won't work. Now, what's their idea? What's their alternative? Don't have one. So, to be clear, the thinking here is, well, if you were to amend the Sports Broadcasting Act, which is boring and you don't even need to understand how that works, but understand if it's amended, that means college football can then pool their media rights. And there's just one college football media deal. And all the networks and maybe even some of the streaming giants get a cut of it through the same process that they always would. They bid on it. And probably what ends up happening there is the SEC and the Big Ten are still the biggest revenue conferences. So the SEC and the Big Ten probably still decide to a large degree how it gets divvied up, but everyone makes a lot more money. Now, there are some pushback. There's some pushback on that. There's some different schools of thought on that. I have talked to some really, really educated people in my personal industry, but also as part of that push, I am firmly convinced that there is a ton more money to be handed out by pooling media rights than there are right now in the silo approach, But picture this, all right? Everyone makes more money. Therefore, you can fund your non-revenue generating sports. More money ultimately flows to the athlete. Now, you may listen to that skeptically and say, oh, yeah, right. No, it's got to work that way, or else you're never going to get the support you need in Congress to pass this to begin with. So you've actually got to have it papered where it works that way. But think about that waterfall financially. All right, think about how everyone makes more money. Everyone, including the Big Ten and the SEC, make more money. And then understand the majority pushback on this is going to be from the Big Two, from the SEC and the Big Ten. And that is because, yes, while everyone may make more money, in the aggregate, you relinquish a lot of the control you have over the sport right now. And if I'm Greg Sankey and if I'm Tony Pate, look, it's not my job to run college football. It's my job to run my league. And so you may not like it at home, but those guys aren't going to sit here and just voluntarily say, yeah, absolutely, man. We'd love to relinquish a lot of the control that we have and a lot of the overall market share that we have on this sport to help out the Big 12. Of course we'd love to do that. That's where the question becomes, what does it take to get what you guys are asking for? You know, the SEC and the Big Ten are in Washington, and when they're not, their lobbyists are up there every week, and they're looking for congressional intervention so that they can get their antitrust exemption, so they can create rules and they can implement them. And anyone with a fully functioning brain is looking around right now and saying, number one, you're not getting it the way you want it. So then number two, if you want to get it, you're probably going to have to traffic somewhat in this kind of idea, and then over here, in the world of collective bargaining, and if you give enough in compartment A and compartment B, then maybe finally Congress over there in compartment C bends enough. So that's where my mind is on that right now.